Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. I've just seen this video here, most dangerous jobs in the world by BMAs, and I thought I'd react to it. So guys, remember to go over and drop them a follow, and yeah, give the video a like. So let's get into it, guys.
Ever get that sinking feeling on Sunday evenings as another weekend passes by and a new work week draws closer? Back to that office cubicle, or that cash register, or those demanding Karens, sorry, customers. But as bad as that sounds, there are some truly terrifying jobs out there that make even the worst customer service jobs look easy. From
Right, let's see them.
crocodile stuntman to daring electrical engineers, join me as we uncover the most dangerous and scariest jobs in the world. Crocodile stuntman. With their
not a
terrifying
job.
teeth, keen hunting sense, and bite force
That's
strong
just
enough to
stupidity.
snap bone, crocodiles are one of the deadliest critters on the planet. And the Siamese crocodile is no different. Native to Southeast Asia, these crocs can reach 13 feet long and have a mouth packed with 64 super sharp teeth. Yikes! But apparently, that's not a problem for workers at Thailand's Samphan Elephant Ground and Zoo. Here,
I mean, you'd have to be pretty snappy at doing it.
it's fair to say the employees get very familiar with the Siamese crocs, because one of the main attractions
I'll see myself out.
at the zoo is crocodile wrestling. If that wasn't dangerous enough, they also perform stunts, like sticking their hands and even heads between the open jaws of the crocs. Whatever these workers are getting paid, it's definitely not enough. Crazy as it sounds, the zoo has been running these stunts since 1985, with the scary show taking place twice daily. With so many shows, you won't be surprised to know
That's how you end up losing a head.
that these crocodile stunts haven't always gone to plan. In 2018,
Really?
a crocodile bit a trainer's arm during a performance.
Told you.
Thankfully,
You
the
had to make
bite
it
wasn't
snappy.
too serious and the stuntman was back working 2 weeks later. Nonetheless, I wouldn't be
Well-
too snappy
Got handed to him. I couldn't do it.
if that was my job. Mad Honey Harvester. At first glance, the Kachkar and Himalayan mountains look like the ideal destination to appreciate the beauty of nature. But serene as the scene looks, workers risk their lives in these mountains every single day. Bees that feed on rhododendron plants growing in these mountainous regions produce something called mad honey. This mud red honey has become popular for the buzz it can give consumers, and
It's a nice color, that.
being in high demand, the stuff can sell for up to $80 a pound. There's one teeny tiny problem though. The rhododendrons flourish at high altitudes, meaning the bees nest on cliffs way up the mountain. So workers have to collect honey from the cliff face itself, some 300 feet off the ground. But that ain't
Used to be allergic to bee stings when I was younger. It's like I've outgrown it, but I still couldn't do that.
the half of it. Workers don't use harnesses to prevent their fall or cherry pickers to make honey harvesting easier. They're mainly from one isolated rural Nepalese tribe called Gurung, and they collect the honey the same way they have for hundreds of years,
That's
with
madness.
rudimentary tools. As such, all they tend to use is rope ladders made from bamboo. The ladder is nailed into the mountain before the honey harvesters climb down from above and reach the terrifying treasure on the cliff face below. Of course, they've got to deal with the threat of the bees as well. The Himalayan giant honeybee, the critter responsible for producing mad honey, is the world's largest honeybee, measuring a spine-crawling 1.2 inches in length.
Jesus.
As you can imagine, having thousands of these things trying to sting you all while you're dangling 300 feet in the air isn't easy work. Man, how good must this
I'm sure
stuff
it's a buzz, though.
taste? But bulky bees aren't the only animals that mad honey harvesters need to watch out for. Brown bears, those 9-foot-long, 1,300-pound beasts, also lurk in these mountainous regions. Scary as that might sound, this might be the best area to cross one of these giants. I mean, take a look at this poor cub who ate a little too much mad honey.
He just wants a
is
picnic.
out of it. All in all, mad honey harvesting seems like a pretty unbearable job. Mount Everest guides. Turns out honey harvesting isn't the only dangerous career in the Himalayan mountains. Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, is a peak in the Himalayan mountain range.
In fact, some may say that it's no joke.
Sherpas, an indigenous tribe of people from the region who are adept at traversing the area, are often employed to guide eager mountaineers up Everest. Temperatures on the mountain can plunge to negative 35 degrees Fahrenheit.
I mean, the views would have to be amazing, but even still, that wouldn't be worth it for me.
Considering that hypothermia can set in at temperatures of 10 degrees Fahrenheit, this place ain't for the faint of heart. There's also the risk of encountering avalanches, which can contain up to 1 million tons of snow. Sounds pretty risky, right? And that's before we've even got to the infamous Khumbu Icefall. This 2.5-mile stretch of constantly moving ice is so unstable it's known for house-sized ice slabs crashing down onto the path and 150 feet deep crevices that climbers have to tentatively cross over via ladders. It's
Yeah, it's definitely snow worth it.
so hazardous, there have been 47 recorded casualties in this stretch of the Everest Trail alone between 1953 and 2023. On top of acting as guides along the heinous hike, Sherpas are often employed to carry mountaineers' food, tents, and oxygen canisters, risking their own lives so explorers can summit the mountain.
Oh yeah.
Sadly,
and,
in the last century, almost
lack of oxygen up that high as well. It's thinner.
100 Sherpa have perished while helping mountaineers trek Everest. You'd think at least these guys would get a hefty payout for evading avalanches, dodging ice slabs, and crossing eerie crevices. I mean, after all, Western guides from the likes of the UK and USA who work on Everest pocket around $50,000 per season. However, Sherpas tend to make just 10% of that total, barely enough money to support their families. So, just so I'm clear, this job is incredibly risky, arduous, and the pay is bad. I think it might be time to let the tourists find their own way to the top.
I'd say so.
Alaskan crab fishermen. Ah, fishing. The relaxing ripples of the water and the gentle tug of the line. Bliss, isn't it? Well, not if you're fishing for Alaskan crab. For these fishermen, fishing isn't about unwinding, but surviving. Alaskan king crab fishing has over 300 fatalities per 100,000 workers each year. That's almost double the fatality rate of loggers at 132 fatalities per 100,000 workers. But what makes this such a perilous profession? Well, the rough seas off the Alaskan coast, where the king crab can be found, present some serious dangers. Here, rough waves can rise above the ship's deck some 45 feet, while the 70-mile-per-hour winds can sweep workers off their footing. If that wasn't tough enough, temperatures can drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning the fishermen are often wet, windswept, and frozen. Sounds like the unholy trinity. Hauling up crab catches also puts workers at risk of falling overboard, and with the water temperature being as low as 30 degrees Fahrenheit, anyone lost at sea will do well to survive for 5 minutes in the freezing waters. If all that wasn't threatening enough, workers can also get caught up in the coil lines that haul up the 800-pound catches, leading to broken bones or even traumatic brain injuries. And that sounds even more painful when you consider they're in the middle of the sea, hundreds of miles away from a hospital. Yep, doesn't matter how injured you are, you won't be seeing a doctor anytime soon. Treacherous as this job sounds, there's one upside: the pay. Fishermen can make as much as $50,000 from just a few days of king crab catching. Safe to say that wage is fit for a king. You know what else is fit for a king? Well, not to brag, but my videos. So don't be shy. Hit those like and subscribe buttons down below to keep on binging all my amazing content. Underwater welder. Tough as the job of an Alaskan crab fisherman sounds, they do at least have the luxury of a boat. The same can be
welding's hard enough, never mind doing it underwater.
said for the guy tasked with cleaning this pier. I mean, this looks more like torture than a legal occupation. Like this hard worker, underwater welders also work in the sea, joining or repairing underwater equipment, pipelines, and infrastructure. Toiling at depths as low as 1,300 feet, underwater welders aren't alone down there in the deep dark water. Exhibit A.
run up. That is awesome. What is that doing? Darren, you alright?
Darren does not sound alright,
He's doing a very fine job there.
and I don't blame him. That's a poor beagle shark, a 12-foot long, up to 600-pound beast that's a relative of the great white shark. But that's not even the half of it. Working at these depths, they need strong lights to view the structures they're working on. But these lights attract plankton, which entice fish, and their predators. And even if underwater welders are desperate to escape a shark-infested zone, they can't leave in a hurry. When a diver descends to these depths, the increasing water pressure causes more nitrogen to be absorbed into the body's tissues. As divers ascend, the surrounding water pressure decreases and the absorbed nitrogen starts to form bubbles. If the ascent is too quick, these bubbles can accumulate in the bloodstream, leading to decompression sickness. Usually this results in dizziness, headaches, confusion, fatigue, and numbness. Not something you'd want to experience 1,300 feet underwater, with a shark chasing you down, no less.
Nope.
On the plus side, underwater
Some could say you'd be in deep trouble.
welders typically earn between $100,000 to $200,000 per year. Even so, you could triple that, and you still wouldn't find me working anywhere near a shark in the deep dark ocean. Lighthouse keeper. Another scary sea-related job is that of a lighthouse keeper. Until the invention of the light bulb, the light in the lighthouse typically came from a flame. A blaze in a confined building? Totally sounds safe. One example of how dangerous this could be was witnessed in 1755 at Eddystone Lighthouse off the coast of southern England. Henry Hall, a 95-year-old lighthouse keeper, discovered that a spark from the light's lantern had ignited the top of the tower. As Hall looked
Bet you didn't see that coming.
up to throw a bucket of water on the blaze, a stream of molten lead poured down from the roof right into his face and throat.
Ooh.
Ouch. Miraculously, he got out of the lighthouse alive, but sadly he passed
I'm
away
surprised.
12 days later with half
Oh,
a pound
there
of
you go.
solid lead stuffed in his stomach. Even in more recent times, the job of a lighthouse keeper is still fraught with danger. Lighthouses are placed in exposed areas that suffer from fierce waves due to their ragged coastlines, allowing ship captains to navigate around them or pinpoint their position by identifying their locations. But big and bulky as they may look, these structures aren't immortal. With batterings from waves, lighthouse structures can wear down over time. Take the Whale Rock Light, a lighthouse off Rhode Island. It stood tall for over 50 years before whopping waves from the New England hurricane of 1938 ripped the structure in two, tragically sending keeper Walter Eberly down with much of the structure. Despite these horror stories, lighthouse keepers aren't rewarded too well either, with the average worker pocketing just $45,000 a year. Man, this job really
that's
isn't
not
light
bad.
work. Iron workers. From the Eiffel Tower
That's
to the
heavy
Empire
work,
State
literally.
Building, our world is filled with some jaw-dropping structures. But have you ever thought about how these monuments were first erected? After all, every big building comes with a structural framework. Well, it's the job of iron workers to install the metal support pieces for new buildings as well as repair and renovate old structures. But building the framework for these things ain't easy. In all, this profession has 47 fatalities for every 100,000 workers. Iron workers tend to work hundreds of feet in the air with just a harness,
Nope,
most
not
of the
for me.
time preventing them from becoming a splat on the pavement. That's not even mentioning the crazy conditions these workers can face. I mean, imagine walking along a single iron beam hundreds of feet in the air while strong winds are threatening to push you off the side. He shouldn't look that relaxed. But it's not just the threat of things below that iron workers need to watch out for. There's also the risk of giant swinging iron beams crashing into them, turning their 9 to 5 into some wicked wipeout course hundreds of feet in the air. So next time you take a trip to the Eiffel Tower or marvel at the Empire State Building, spare thought for those lion-hearted laborers that constructed these stunning structures in the first place. Lumberjack. For most of us, a walk through the forest gives us a chance to
I mean, would you guys do that?
unwind and feel at one with nature. But after hearing about this next occupation, your next woodland walk may not be so peaceful. With an insane fatal work injury rate of 82 per 100,000, lumberjacking isn't a job for the faint-hearted, and it's not hard to see why. On a daily basis, they handle chainsaws, chippers, choppers, basically equipment that can turn anyone into mincemeat in an instant. But those menacing machines aren't the only dangers they face. There's also the very real risk of lumberjacks being crushed by trees, considering most of their job is chopping them down.
I mean, that's why you branch out and get out.
Since the average tree lumberjacks work with can weigh up to 5 tons, it's definitely not something you'd want to fall on you. And while lumberjacks use cutting techniques to help direct the fall of a tree, they can't always predict which way it'll fall. Whoa, that's what happens when you cut into a rotten tree and it begins to break apart before it falls. Hella dangerous to be anywhere in the vicinity of, let alone directly underneath it. If that wasn't metal enough, some lumberjacks even hike their way up trees to cut away loose branches. As a result, they can expect tree parts falling down on them all while they're at dizzying heights. If you replay that clip, you can actually hear the disappointment as that tree takes out the garden fence below, instead of landing in the cleared area this lumberjack assumed it would fall into. Well, seeing how dangerous it is, how much do you reckon these guys get paid? $100,000? $200,000? Amazingly, the average lumberjack is paid around just $50,000 a year. Fair to say, for that price, that's a job I would not consider. Smoke jumper. By the name alone, you know firefighting is a perilous job. I mean, battling a burning building
But what's a smoke jumper?
or wading into a fire doesn't sound safe no matter how you phrase it. Well, scary as it sounds, what if I told you it's nothing compared to the job of a smoke jumper? If you didn't know, smoke jumpers are essentially firefighters who jump out of airplanes. Yep, while for many skydiving is their biggest fear, that's just part of a smoke jumper's everyday. Let me explain. Smoke jumpers are specially trained wildland firefighters tasked with putting out remote wildland fires where roads and rail can't reach. Aircraft fly over the forest fire before the smoke jumpers parachute out, landing in what looks like hell on earth. When the smoke jumpers land, firefighting supplies are parachuted down to help them tackle the blaze. But how exactly do you stop a fire without the aid of fire hydrants or fire trucks? Well, smoke jumpers create a fire break. This is a zone that interrupts the fire's fuel source, which they do by quickly cutting down trees and digging trenches in the direction the fire is traveling. Being such a high-risk and high-skilled job, only about 400 smoke jumpers currently work for the U.S. government. You'd imagine those chosen few would be pretty well compensated, but these guys are typically paid just $50,000 per fire season. Man, you'd think they'd be rewarded more generously for nosediving down to deal with whopping wildfires. Bridge builders. Whether it's San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge or London's Tower Bridge, the world's filled with some jaw-dropping crossings. These crazy constructions are the result of bridge builders who risk their lives all so you can make it safely across to the other side. Take Ice High Bridge in China, for example. This beastie bridge is almost 4,000 feet long, but that's not the most jaw-dropping thing about this superstructure. The bridge stretches over a canyon 1,102 feet in the air, meaning workers building this thing were at a height greater than that of the top of the Eiffel Tower. As you can imagine, the main risk of bridge building from such heights is the fall. One wrong step could lead to a 10-second free fall to Pancake Town, if you get my drift. While workers
free falling
are usually secured by a harness to stop them from crashing to their end, photos taken on site reveal that wasn't always the case at Ice High Bridge.
Like a fake photo.
Across the Pacific Ocean, you'll find New York's Brooklyn Bridge, one of the world's most well-recognized crossings. But did you know about this place's lesser-known horrific history? Sadly, the project that was completed in 1883 took at least 27 lives. Several workmen left this mortal coil after large chunks of stone fell during the construction of the bridge's towers, while others accidentally fell from the towers themselves. If that doesn't sound grisly enough, workers risk their lives for just $2 a day, less than $45 in today's money. Fortunately, nowadays, bridge builders are able to pocket around $60,000 a year. Still,
Not bad.
regardless of how much money I'd make, bridge building definitely isn't an occupation I want to cross. Line worker. Have you ever been in the middle of a Be Amazed video when all of a sudden... blackout. Pretty annoying,
Okay.
isn't it? But if you thought it was bad for you, spare a thought for the workers in charge of fixing the power outages. Line workers are responsible for carrying out repair work to high-voltage power lines to restore electricity. To start with, they're tasked with scaling utility poles, which, depending on the height and accessibility of the surrounding terrain, can be a machine-assisted ride or a freehand climb.
I'm thinking they get paid about 60k. Shocking, isn't it?
Take these weary workers from Guangdong in South China who had the unenviable job of repairing a power line that reached a giddying 3,280 feet above sea level. But the disturbing
That's
drop
amazing,
isn't the
isn't it?
only
Inside
thing
the
these
meters?
guys need to be cautious of. Usually power lines fault in extreme weather, like a storm or wildfire. Unfortunately for line workers, that means they face falling debris, slippery surfaces, and heavy gusts of wind, just in case climbing hundreds or even thousands of feet up wasn't terrifying enough. Yet the greatest threat to a line worker's life isn't the height or crazy conditions, but the electrical lines themselves. Power lines that are damaged or improperly handled can cause electrical burns or even electrocution. And
Shocking.
considering that line workers typically work with electrical systems that carry at least 11,000 volts, that's not going to be too pleasant. Just
No.
2,700 volts are usually fatal, so imagine the damage that 11,000 volts passing through your body can do. With all these risks, it's no surprise that 42 out of every 100,000 line workers pass away on the job each year, while a further 2,400 per 100,000
I mean, it's a lot, but it's not as much as you would think.
suffer serious injuries. On the plus side, these guys bag close to $80,000 every year on average.
It's even more
Still,
than I thought.
that doesn't stop line workers from having a shocking
Alright,
occupation.
so they're going up and
Manual
what's your pay then?
scavenger. Have you ever had a traumatic bowel movement? Luckily, with a flush, you can forget it ever happened. Unless
shit.
you're one of the sewage workers tasked with manually unblocking sewers. In
Don't think
India,
I could do that.
manual scavengers clear blocked sewers using their bare hands.
Ooh.
Not only is this job gross enough to make you hurl, it's also deadly, with over 100 manual scavengers in India biting the dust each year.
God knows
You'd
what
guess that
disease
might be
down
from
there.
disease or illness, but no. That's 100 people who perished
Methane?
in sewers and septic tanks on the job. Undoubtedly, it's disgusting, but what makes this job so deadly? Well, manual scavengers enter into sewage manholes and septic tanks without any protective gear. All they have to unblock pipes is their bare hands. Even worse, they have to regularly submerge their entire bodies in raw
no
sewage,
way.
meaning they often get a face full of feces. Man, I need a moment. Unfortunately, drowning is another grim possibility for these workers. In fact, it's the leading cause of death for manual scavengers, with many sinking in human waste that can go down 20 feet deep. Surprisingly,
Jesus
human waste
Christ.
isn't the only thing these workers need to be weary of. The dark, putrid places are also home to sinister spiders and even venomous snakes, including
Makes
cobras.
sense.
Can you imagine submerging yourself in human waste, and then you pop your head up and there's a cobra hissing at you? Creepy crawlies aren't the only danger lurking in these underground sewers, though. Sewer gas, a nasty smelling mixture of toxic
Yeah,
gases like
methane.
methane and sulfur dioxide, toxify the air in these sewers. While that may not
Toxicity
seem
combo.
as scary as a snake, it can be far more harmful, with many manual scavengers falling unconscious due to the lack of oxygen in the underground chambers. To top it all off, manual scavengers earn the equivalent to just 12 cents for a day's worth of labor. I don't want to hear any complaints about office jobs ever again.
Literally
Sulfur
the word
miner.
shittiest job.
As I speak, there are roughly 50 volcanoes all over the world erupting. Some are just releasing plumes of steam, while others are spurting out tons of lava reaching more than 2,140 degrees Fahrenheit. Either way, best not to get too close, right? Well,
Yep. You get into some hot trouble there.
try telling that to these miners from Ijen in Indonesia. These guys have the job of mining away at Ijen Volcano.
Not
The
even
question
gas
is,
mask?
what exactly are these guys mining? After all, miners usually dig underground to extract things like coal or gold. Instead, these workers are after sulfur, a
Yep,
common
you said
household
that.
ingredient used in everything from matches to batteries. Molten sulfur is tapped from inside the rock surrounding the volcano using metal pipes that bring the stuff to the surface, where it cools into a hard yellow solid. The workers then hack the solid sulfur into smaller lumps before collecting it in wicker baskets on their backs. In all, they carry around 200 pounds of sulfur, more than their body weight, back from the volcano. To make the work even
Damn,
more
fair play to
grueling,
them.
temperatures here reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Man, that makes even the most grueling spreadsheet look tempting. But the heavy load and high heat is the least of these workers' worries. The sulfur smoke in the air is incredibly unpleasant. Not only does it smell like rotten eggs, it's also incredibly irritable. Unfortunately,
think
most
so.
of the miners can't afford safety equipment, with many simply protecting themselves with a rag over their face. As a result, many miners suffer from pharyngitis and inflammation of the back of the throat, as well as scars on their body from touching and carrying sulfur. Sadly, due to the horrific working conditions, many sulfur miners don't make it past the age of 50. What's the reward for such life-threatening work? Just $15 a day. That's a volcano
No way is that worth
for
it.
me. Pizza delivery driver. There's nothing better in life than freshly delivered,
pizza.
warm, cheesy pizza. Oh. Sorry. That doesn't mean your delightful deep dish always arrives at your door smoothly, though. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, a pizza delivery driver is at higher risk of injury or death than a police officer. In all, 25 out of every 100,000 pizza delivery drivers meet their maker on the job every year. So what's so dangerous about pizza delivery? For starters, these guys have to deliver dinner in all sorts of wild weather. Take this heroic delivery driver who risked his life during a typhoon, all so someone could chomp down on some dinner. Even in perfect conditions, these guys aren't safe. Take a look at this.
Squirrel jumps. I've seen this. Something.
Man, that squirrel really must have been craving some stuffed crust. In all seriousness, though, many other
say he was
pizza
a little nutty
delivery
for it?
drivers face some severe threats on the road, putting them at risk of traffic accidents. But that's not the only problem these guys face. Shockingly, 17% of pizza delivery driver fatalities occur due to intentional injuries from assault, robbery, or homicide. Not because criminals are looking to steal a slice of pizza, but because delivery drivers are well known to work with cash. As a result, crooks target them to get their hands on some easy money. Well, I can confidently say I don't want a pizza that job.
Nope, me neither.
Okay.
Alright guys, hope you enjoyed that. That was Most Dangerous Jobs in the World by BMAs. And if you enjoyed that, go ahead and drop them a subscribe. And don't forget to like this video, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.